Cultural Confinement by Robert Smithson, and Writing the Truth, 5 Difficulties by Bertolt Brecht are separated by roughly 40 years, but the two pieces of writing share a similar sentiment. They both are written by culture makers outside of commercialized culture. Smithson writes that, quote, museums, like asylums and jails, have wards and cells. In other words, neutral rooms called galleries, end quote. He also writes that, quote, writing should generate ideas into matter, not the other way around, end quote. Brecht writes that there are 5 difficulties to writing the truth. They are to have the courage to write it, the ability to recognize it, the ability to use it as a weapon, the skill to find those who can be trusted with it, and the skill to spread it among the masses. He writes, quote, cannot the thinking we have stimulated be made use of? That is, can it be framed so that it leads to action, end quote. Both Smithson and Brecht call for ideas to become concrete, to become actions. Ages ago, every cell in your soul capsized forever into this infinite golden sea was an installation by Nadine Farage at the Spring Break Art Show. You were given a flashlight before you entered the room, and when you did, you realized that the walls were actually watercolor paper, and there were paintings of many different types and shades of women. Extraño, which in Spanish means stranger, was an installation that I turned into a video. The installation was about the feeling of being a stranger, or the feeling of being in an unfamiliar place. Both my installation and Farage's installation are about creating experiences more so than art objects. That experience creates a dialogue between the viewer and the artist, and the viewer and the artwork. And that's part of what Smithson calls for in his essay. To paraphrase him, he says that art should be dialectical and that it should be in dialogue with systems outside of the system of cultural confinement. And naturally, a part of that dialogue would be the nature of truth that Brecht writes about, and how one can determine what that truth is, and how can one spread that truth. And for our artists, it would be spreading that truth through their artwork. Farage is in dialogue with a matriarchy that predates the Abrahamic religions, one where gender and spirituality and sexuality all intersect. My installation / video was in dialogue with the people around me and the feelings of being unfamiliar and of being a stranger. And once those conversations are started, then I think the artists have to ask ourselves, what is our truth, and how do we talk about that truth?